Hello there. How the UK became Western capital for Sharia courts is the headline in the Times. But this is not to warn us of a danger. No, it is to prepare us for more of it. The Times and GB News are running with this story about Sharia courts, also known as Sharia councils. And the general claim is that there are 80 to 85 of them now operating in the UK since the first of them was set up in 1982. Sharia translated means the correct path. And both reports point to a computer app approved by a Sharia court where men can set up Sharia-compliant wills worded in such a way that they become effective in UK law, including situations with up to 4 wives, and in the process disadvantaging women, because under Sharia law they always get half the amount that male offspring get from a deceased's estate. So we have an app that is programmed to churn out legal documents that disadvantage women. And then there's the divorce problem. Under a purely Sharia law marriage, or nikah, that has no accompanying civil marriage certificate, a woman will find it very hard to divorce a man. And the man only has to say divorce 3 times and she's out on her ear with nothing and no home. Exactly the same as in a common law so-called marriage, where there is little to no protection. Unless critically, that nikah marriage took place abroad in a country where nikah is considered legally binding. In that case, the nikah is considered the same as a wedding here in the UK, so couples can go abroad to a country like that and get married there. But, and here's the big but, here's a report from the Mail in 2015. Inside Britain's Sharia courts, there are now 85 Islamic courts dispensing justice across the UK. This investigation into what really goes on behind their doors will shock you to the core. That's 9 years ago. Is it still 85 councils today, given the increasing demographic changes? And as the Times says, people are flooding here from abroad to get decisions from our Sharia courts. What does that tell you? And last year, the EuropeanConservative.com reported, these organisations are accused of operating a parallel legal system in the UK. While their rulings have no legal validity, they have a decision-making capacity. Currently, there is no reliable statistic on the number of Sharia councils in England and Wales. Estimates vary between 80 to 85, and they are growing in number. Now, the big thing here is that these courts exist to settle Sharia issues to do with things like what happens to the money under Sharia law when someone dies or divorces. And is it right for these bodies, almost exclusively overseen by men, to make decisions that could leave one party, usually the woman, severely disadvantaged to the point of destitution? Is that justice? A lot of people will say, well, they made that decision in the first place, so tough. But now we get to something really interesting. Remember earlier on in the video when I talked about common law marriages? Well, a lot of people think they convey the same rights as a marriage with an official certificate, but they don't. But before the last election, the Labour Party was making noises about changing that to the point when Shadow Attorney General Emily Thornberry said, "For too long, women in cohabiting couples have been left with no rights when those relationships come to an end. If there is no joint property or shared parental dues, a man can leave his partner with nothing, especially if he has the means to take it to court, and thanks to the Tories, she does not. It is time we reviewed this issue in England and Wales, just as it has been done in New Zealand, Scotland and Ireland. No woman should be forced to get married to stay in an unhappy relationship just to avoid ending up on the street. And there are about 3.6 million cohabiting couples. But isn't that their decision? And if they get caught out by it, is it the state's fault or theirs? And in my view, such a move would further devalue the institution of marriage. But such a policy would also therefore apply to the nikah, Sharia-only marriages, meaning that the men would suddenly find themselves seriously on the hook in a divorce. And importantly, this policy did not appear in the Labour manifesto despite promises. And I wonder if it was omitted in order to appease those men who are ardent Sharia adherents who don't believe in equal rights, and who want to see the full strength of Sharia at play. Just asking. And the BBC shows its bias once again by refusing to play the new #1 hit song, Freezing This Christmas by Sir Starmer and the Granny Harmers. It's a lampoon of Labour and its pensioner winter fuel allowance policy, and based on the song Lonely This Christmas by the group Mud. Well, you know what to do. Download it and keep it at #1. So that paragon of pure as the driven snow Labour Party has got itself a possible corruption story. Yes, one of their ministers has been named in a 3.9 billion quid Bangladesh fraud investigation. That's right. And the Labour minister concerned is Tulip Siddiq, who, as the Treasury's Economic Secretary, is responsible for tackling corruption in UK financial markets. And she is alleged to have brokered a deal with Russia in 2013 that overinflated the price of a new nuclear power plant in Bangladesh, reports the BBC. And it also says that the allegation is part of a wider investigation by Bangladesh's Anti-Corruption Commission into Siddique's aunt, Sheikh Hasina, who was deposed as Prime Minister of the country in August, for being a tad autocratic, as I understand it. She's now in exile. For her part, Tulip Siddiq claims these are trumped-up charges. It's a complicated story, but Keir the Neela Starmer has given Ms Siddiq his full support. Or is that the kiss of doom? And she has recused herself from any government dealings with Bangladesh. But what about Russia? Now, what if the Bangladeshi Anti-Corruption Commission, the ACC, want to have a word with her? What if an extradition request lands on the Home Secretary's desk? If she is found to have transgressed Bangladeshi fraud laws, she could be facing 7 years and/or a fine. We don't, as I understand it, have a full-blown extradition treaty with Bangladesh. But if there is prima facie evidence, then as an extradition Category 2B country, we could see her on a plane. Remember, Keir Starmer is a stickler for the law, isn't he? Or will Bangladesh suddenly then become too dangerous to extradite people to? I mean, that would be a bit embarrassing, wouldn't it? A Labour minister carted off in ignominy. It would probably take years to achieve it, though. Now, TribuneIndia.com reports that Bangladesh has been keen for an extradition treaty with the UK for quite a while, because it wants to get hold of 2 of their army officers who killed the founding father of Bangladesh, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and his family members in 1975. And to also gain the return of fugitive Bangladesh National Party leader Tariq Rahman, who has been sentenced for money laundering. This Tulip Siddiq story might have some legs on it, although I would guess that the mainstream media would rather this danger to Labour would just go away.